Welcome to another edition of the Inspired Stories podcast, where leaders share their experiences so we can learn from their successes and be inspired by how they've overcome adversity. My name is Anthony Codispoti, and today's guest is Linda Cozzi, Chief Financial Officer of the Philadelphia Cricket Club. They have been recognized among the top clubs in America since 1854, offering multiple sports facilities, 6 dining venues, and premier event hosting. Their mission is to engage and enrich their community through creating fun and active social experiences that athletes of all levels can enjoy, from beginners to world champs. Linda has over 30 years of experience in finance and operations across hospitality and sports. She has overseen a triple top-line revenue growth, transformational capital projects, and has achieved record-high employee satisfaction. Under her leadership, the club has also gained recognition as a top 50 Platinum Club of America and top 150 Platinum Country Club in the world. Linda has held leadership roles on the board of the Philadelphia and Vicinity Club Management Association and serves as president of the Philadelphia Club Foundation, demonstrating her dedication to advancing the industry. Now, before we get into all that good stuff, today's episode is brought to you by my company, Add Back Benefits Agency, where we offer very specific and unique employee benefits that are both great for your team of country club employees and fiscally optimized for your bottom line. Imagine being able to give your employees free access to doctors, therapists, and prescription medications. And here's the fun part. The program actually puts more money in your employees' pockets and the company's too. One recent client was able to increase net profits by $900 per employee per year. Now, results vary for each company. Some organizations may not be eligible. To find out if your company qualifies, contact us today at addbackbenefits.com. All right, back to our guest today, CFO of the Philadelphia Cricket Club, Linda Cozzi. Thanks for making the time to share your story today.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
So, Linda, you first went to school for finance and accounting. What first sparked your interest in that?
It's funny. It kind of came by happenstance. I was a senior in high school and needed an elective to, finish out the year. And I took a bookkeeping class just on a whim, and it just clicked with me. And I, no one in my family was an accountant. My dad was a high school math teacher and football coach. And I thought, wow, this could be a potential. And so I went through the accounting route, and it's worked out for me.
It's fit pretty well. And you've worked at a number of places since graduating that put a high degree of focus on hospitality, hotels, country clubs, golf courses. What first got you interested in these types of industries?
I think it's, again, just a kind of natural progression. I was working in a hotel while I was going to college. I was working in the bar. And when I graduated, they offered me a management and training program in their accounting department. And it just kind of went from there. I'm from the South, and I think the South is kind of synonymous with hospitality. So it just seemed like a good fit for me. And throughout my career, I've just gravitated towards that.
Before we talk about Philadelphia Cricket Club, pick one of your career stops along the way that was particularly formidable for you and explain big, powerful lesson that you learned there.
I was very fortunate in that first job right out of college. I was so excited, and I was charged with auditing food and beverage internal controls. I was so excited. I went and found every mistake I could find, right? And I thought I was like so pumped. I was doing my job, because I found all of this stuff. And my controller came to me and he said, Linda, you'll attract more bees with honey than with vinegar. And that just flipped the switch for me, and really changed the trajectory of my career after that. Instead of being an auditor, I became a business partner. So I worked so closely with operations. I even had one team who won Food and Beverage Operation of the Year. And it got to the point where they didn't hate seeing me. They were like, oh, come in, Linda, let me show you what we're doing. So that just business partner role that I took as opposed to an auditor changed the rest of my career. I got to a point where I started understanding operations, understanding what they went through. And that really helped me become more of a storyteller than a bean counter, as I'll say.
And so what did that look like from a practical standpoint? Were you no longer looking for all the little tiny mistakes, or were you still looking for them, but then maybe being more contributory to the solution?
Exactly. I would teach them what I'm looking for so that they knew how to. So in food and beverage, you're like labeling items, rotating them. So you're using the oldest one first, that kind of stuff. So I would go and teach them what it is that I'm looking for so that then all I was reporting is how great they were doing. So it just became a great relationship. And then, again, I viewed my role as not an auditor, but as a support function. How can I make your operation better in the job that I provide? So it just changed that whole relationship to a business partner is what I'll call it.
And you said something about becoming a storyteller. Do you mean that in the sense of being able to tell a story to your team members about why things are done a certain way, or was there a different context there?
No, a different context. So because I knew so much about what was going on in the operation, I could take the numbers and then tell the story of the operation based on the variances or whatever was happening. That's what I mean by storyteller, is that I could tell the story behind the numbers, not just report the numbers.
Can you think of a specific example?
So like if early in my career in hotels, if you were beating revenue targets, but you weren't bringing a certain percentage down to the bottom line, telling those types of stories as to why or why not that might be happening. There was one particular time in my manufacturing career where I was at Sara Lee Coffee. I built such great relationships that if a batch of coffee was burnt and then reused into like a lower product, they were coming to me and telling me. So when I had variances in inventory, I was able to tell leaders this happened, but we were able to recover parts of it by, reintroducing it into a higher, a different product. But we still have this small variance. So explaining to leaders why the numbers were the way they were so that they could make better decisions and not necessarily worry about it being a particular problem, if that makes sense.
That helps a lot. Yeah, thanks. Okay, so then how did the opportunity to join the Philadelphia Cricket Club come about?
So I was doing some consulting, some interim CFO work and installing systems, which was kind of my specialty. And they were looking for a CFO at Cricket. I was in Atlanta at the time. I didn't know if it was the right fit, so I just reached out to the GM at the time, and I said, I don't know if this is the right fit, but I can at least come and be your interim CFO. I can install the system. I've done it before. I can get you through it, and if it works out, great. And if it doesn't, then I will help transition to your new person.
It's quite an offer.
Well, it worked out for me. It gave me the consulting work that I needed. This was during, the still recovering from the financial crisis of 08, 09. It was 2011.
Okay.
And I came, at the time, the revenue here was still pretty low. So they weren't willing to quite pay what it would cost for me to move my family up here. So I transitioned with the new person. Unfortunately, that person was not equipped for the volume that happens here. So I kept coming back during the year and at the same time looking for a permanent job because the consulting work was so sporadic.
Yeah.
And I was using the GM as a reference. And he's like, no, you need to come work for me. And I'm like, well, I told you what it would take. And he's like, okay, get up here.
Okay. At that point, you had proved yourself.
That was
you're
in
super valuable. We need you.
Yeah.
We're going to bump up the compensation.
And I've been here ever since.
Okay. And so tell us about, actually, paint a picture for us what it was like when you first came in. What were some of the problems that needed to be fixed or addressed?
Oh, it took me a good year to clean up the books. My predecessor here, unfortunately, there could be board meetings where they didn't get financials. Um, so the bar was pretty low. um, and the praise that I got at the end of that year, I was like, all I did was give you financials. It's not that hard, but I did have a lot of cleanup to do. It took me a good year to get it to where I was comfortable with it, which means that everything ties out. I'm pretty detail oriented. And so it was a lot of work that first year, but then after that, I've just kept it going. But yeah.
So aside from having to clean up the books, what were some other issues that needed address? And maybe those had to wait until after the books were cleaned up.
No, because simultaneously we were doing a $17 million project on 2 campuses. So we also had, a huge capital project that was going on. So yeah, it was a little more than just cleaning up the accounting. It was keeping things going, being able to provide solid financials that leaders can make decisions on, whether it's, okay, can we borrow money now? What does the future look like? That forecasting, that kind of stuff. So it was a lot at once. But I love challenges like that. I know that sounds disturbing, but I do. So yeah.
So you mentioned multiple campuses. Let's take a step back for a second and paint a more complete picture for us of the Philadelphia Cricket Club. What goes on there? What happens at the different campuses? Membership? Give us the whole laydown.
So we're a private country club, full service country club. So that means that our members own us. We're not an equity club. You can't sell your membership to someone else. We don't have houses around our property. So we're truly a neighborhood club. We have 2 locations. They're about 5 miles apart with 3 clubhouses. So we have one location, we call it St. Martin's. That's in a suburb of Philadelphia called Chestnut Hill. The area itself is called St. Martin's, which is why we call this campus St. Martin's. That has all of our racket sports. It has the pool, it has the banquet facilities, and a 9-hole golf course. And then 5 miles away, we have 2 18-hole golf courses where we also do trap shooting there as well. And we have 2 clubhouses that have food and beverage. So it's a pretty big operation. For a private club, we're considered a large club. Mainly because of the 2 campuses and because of the size of our membership. We're up to about 1,900 memberships right now, which means with kids and spouses, it's about 4,800 members. Our top line revenue is about 36 million. Actually, it might be about 38 million this year. And when I started, we were about 11 million.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
Yeah.
So there's a big story there.
Yeah.
How did you increase revenue so much?
By increasing membership. Our membership in when I started was right around 1,150. And now we're, going to be a little over 1,900 memberships now. The structure was different too. Country clubs have a tendency, especially, and we're the oldest country club in America. We were established in 1854 by some cricket players. And you can imagine being the oldest country club, sometimes you continue to do things the way you've always done them. Thankfully, this club doesn't think that way, but for a very long time, up until, some new management came in 2011, they had what you called a kind of a la carte service where you were either individual or family, and then you picked what sports you wanted. And you could change them every quarter. Can you imagine trying to forecast the dues on that? It's crazy. So they had the vision to change that to an all-inclusive membership, which is now pretty much what you see everywhere. where you have everything, both campuses, all golf, all facilities, or you just have the St. Martin's campus, which is the racket sports and the pool. It does include the 9-hole golf course, or you just have a social membership, what we call a house.
So you
But
changed
switching
the
to
membership
that,
structure.
yeah,
Right.
it really increased the revenue immediately because you have now everyone supporting all of the facilities, as
Yeah.
opposed to, oh, I only want.
Yeah. And then you increased membership from 1,100 memberships to 1,900. How did you go about doing that?
Just, I think the capital projects helped a lot, because we were growing by about 100 memberships a year for a couple of years in a row after those projects. We also did some, reduced our initiation fee, made the barrier to entry a little bit easier too. We've since gone away from that, but it was really helpful in the beginning. And then we've continued to do projects. In 23, we finished another $17 million worth of projects. And we're currently underway doing some additional projects with adding a golf performance center and renovating another clubhouse. So, we're constantly innovating, constantly reinventing into the facilities. We are the first in the area to add Padel, which is a racket sport originally started in Mexico, but it's really grown traction in Spain and it is now growing into the US. We were one of the first country clubs in the area to have that. So just constantly looking at ways to enhance the member experience. And then I know we'll get into this at some point, but just investing in our staff, because our staff create the experience. And when you have such a positive experience, your members want to invite their friends to join, which all members are referrals anyway. But so it's just kind of been this organic growth through a series of really good decisions.
So I want to dig into a few things that you said there. First of all, Padel, my first time hearing about it. I just looked up some images. Yep, racket sport, a low net. Looks like it's in a cage or like
Yes.
a room. Like, is it sort of like racquetball where you bounce the balls off the walls?
So it's a mix between squash and tennis. So it's
Okay.
scored like tennis. It's a heavy tennis ball that's used, but the racket is not a string racket. It's a solid, like styrofoam type racket. You can play off the walls. It's got glass on either side. Ours are outdoors. You might be looking at something that's inside. I'm not sure. But it's got fencing on the sides, glass on the either end, and you can play off of all of that. And you can even play outside the court if you can get it and get it back into play. But it's a really fun sport because it's done, the base of it is turf with sand underneath it. So for people who were really competitive in squash and the hard court is just too hard on the joints anymore,
Mhm.
it's a sport that's, a little more forgiving, but yet you can still have that competitive edge that you love about squash.
It's good for aging folks like myself.
It is, but you know what? All age. We had our first junior championship this past summer, so it's all age
Good
group.
for
It's
all
a lot of
ages.
fun. Yeah.
Yeah. And then a couple of other things you said a little bit earlier. There's no houses around your properties. Why did you make a point of pointing that out?
Because some places, like in Florida in particular, a neighborhood will be built around with a country club as an amenity, and you have to own a house to be a member there.
Got it. Okay.
Here, there are houses around us, but the club doesn't own any of those. And those members the people who own those houses may be members here, but they don't have to have a membership to buy the house, if that makes sense.
Gotcha. Okay. There was something else that you said. It's going to come back to me. Okay, and yeah, and then that sort of leads into the whole membership structure, right?
Yeah.
It's not the people who live around or own homes, because that's not part of your part of the Philadelphia Cricket Club. It's people who have elected to pay the initiation, pay the annual dues.
Correct.
Yeah, okay. Understood. Okay. Okay. So explain to us what the top 50 Platinum Club is, Linda.
It's a ranking organization in our industry. And it's, you apply, and then all GMs and presidents of other clubs vote on the top clubs. And they do it every 2 years. They also own the Platinum Clubs of the world. When I started in 2012, we weren't in the top 100. We didn't have, it's not that we had a bad reputation, but we didn't have a great one. It's like people just didn't really know about us, even though we're the oldest country club in America. And since then, I think our last ranking was number 36, which is pretty impressive over, a 13-year time frame. We've really grown in the industry. We've hosted some events that have highlighted us as a place to be. Most recently, the Truist PGA Championship. And so our reputation has grown. And then Platinum Clubs of the World, we were always an honorary mention. And these last 2 times we jumped in, and at 120, the rankings are going again right now. It's every other year also. So I'm hoping that we jump up a little bit more. I'm a little competitive, if you can tell.
And what are they looking at? Is this sort of like quality of the facility? Is it revenue numbers? Like, what's important to them?
It's quality of facilities, it's staff, it's members. They have a whole list of criteria. I don't
like who your members are, or like number of members,
reputation of the members. Okay. How they give back to the community, how we give back to the game of golf, to some of the racket sports. We host a lot of other tournaments too, like the Chestnut Hill Classic is a women's squash tournament. We've got oh my gosh, I'm going to miss what ranking she is. We have a member who's like highly ranked in the squash professional world, which is so fun to watch her play. We recently hosted the APTA Nationals, which is the platform tennis organization. We have 7 courts for that as well. So, we give back to all of the sports that, we host.
When you say you give back to, you mean like hosting these tournaments, these events?
Yeah.
Okay. And you mentioned, the big investments that you guys have made, a number of capital projects over the years as a big reason for the increase in memberships, the increase in revenue, obviously the restructuring of how the memberships work. Anything else that you give credit to for that increase in revenue?
Yeah, I give a lot of credit to our staff, because no matter how good our facilities are, it's our staff that create the experience. And I think our team is, I'm sure everybody does, but I think our team is amazing. To watch them work together, this past March, we had the APTA National Championship. And I'm standing in the middle. It's freezing. It's a winter sport. Standing in the middle of the parking lot, our village that we created for the fan experience. And I'm just watching our team, and it's like watching a ballet. They're so well coordinated. They pay attention to every single little detail. And the reviews that we got from hosting that tournament from both fans and players, they're like, this is the best tournament we've ever had. Everything was taken care of. The food and beverage was amazing. The staff was so accommodating. Everything they needed, they were right on top of it. They do that stuff every day for our members, day in and day out. They're just amazing, and they care so much that the experience that the members have when they come here, it feels like home. And because of that, I think our membership has grown. When we took over in 2018, the 3 of us, they call us the 3-headed monster.
Who are the other two?
So Jim Smith Jr. is the director of golf, and he's the Flowertown general manager. And then Dan Mearsman is our director of grounds, and he is our chief planning officer. So he's kind of the project manager for a lot of our capital projects. So the three of us together are the most tenured. I'm the least tenured of the three, and I've been here for 13 years, if that gives you a picture. But one of the things that we felt was most important is kind of that Richard Branson, invest in your employees and they'll take care of your customers. We fully believed in that. And it just started immediately. We looked every year, we're like, how can we improve our benefits? Are we paying the right rates? Are we at or better at the market? Let's build this enrichment fund so that we can thank our staff on the fly when we need to, when they go above and beyond. We take that enrichment budget and allocate it out to each department based on the number of employees that they have. And every year we're like, have you spent your money? Have you spent your money? Make sure you're taking care of your employees.
What does that mean? How would they spend the money? What's the enrichment fund used for?
They could use it for, say, hey, take your wife out to dinner. Here's a gift card to this local restaurant. It could be a cash. It could be, here's $50 in cash. Thank you so much for going above and beyond. It could just be, a Starbucks gift card. You've really been killing it lately. Thank you. Any way that they can think of to personalize a thank you. And it can't just be, okay, everybody gets $100. It's not that. It's very personal per person. We do things like celebrate milestones, whether it's holding a baby shower for someone who's about to have a baby, giving wedding gifts for those who are about to get married, just anything that we can do to kind of personalize and help people grow. That's where we focus, and it's built a culture. We survey our employees twice a year, and we use the Net Promoter Score. I'm sure you're familiar with that.
Yeah, but go ahead and explain it, please.
So Net Promoter Score is on a scale of 1 to 10. How likely are you to recommend PCC as a place to work? And so 9s and 10s are your promoters. 7s and 8s are just kind of a moderate number. And then 6 and below are your detractors. So you take all the 9s and 10s, the percentage of those minus the percentage of the 6 and unders, and that's your Net Promoter Score. Anything above a 0 is okay. Up to 30 is kind of good. And then, it continues to go up from there. When we started in 2018, that score was an 8, which is, not great. This past year, I think we had a score of 68.
Wow.
And it really has been a series of different things of how can we make work life better? So we've done things like our managers, especially in food and beverage and grounds and some of these other areas, work so many hours. The country club industry is known for being a grind from a management standpoint. I mean, you could easily work 6-7 days a week, 16 hours a day. I mean, it can really be a grind. We recognized that and said, no, we're going to go to 4-day work weeks. So we need to expand our management team to make sure that we have the coverage. And we did it. Now, some of them still work 5, but we make sure that they're not working more than 45, 50 hours a week, tops, which is unheard of in our industry. We do things like this year, for instance, we have 5 paid holidays. It's kind of annoying. So we ran the numbers and said, okay, can we add another holiday? Well, we're adding another holiday.
What's the new holiday?
Memorial Day. Can you believe we don't pay for Memorial Day? That drives me crazy. So we're going to now.
Is the club closed on Memorial Day?
No,
Okay.
no,
So
we're
how is
not,
it a holiday for the employees?
because they get paid the extra time for it. So our part-time people get paid time and a half for working the holiday, and our full-time people get another 8 hours.
Okay.
And then our salaried people would essentially get another day off at a different time. So
So sorry, Linda, I just thinking through this, do you think that spending more on the employees, it's a causation,
yeah,
or is it a correlation? It just happens to coincide with the revenues increasing because you guys are doing, all these big capital projects to draw in new members. You change that membership fee structure. How convinced are you that the extra money that you're spending on your team is contributing to the revenue growth?
I'm pretty convinced. We've been doing it for a long time, reinvesting in our staff, creating a better work-life balance. It's reduced our turnover. In hospitality, turnover, especially in food and beverage, can be 100, 120%. Our full-time staff our turnover is about 25%. So knowing our members, again, creates that sense of home for them. This is like a second home to them. So when they're recognized, when they come in, when they know what drink they like, and it makes them feel special. And that type of feeling and experience, I believe, has helped grow our membership. Yes, the facilities are nice. Yes, those are important too. But I think the experience that they have when they're here, that they receive from our staff, has really helped grow the membership. I really do.
That's powerful. Yeah. And I mean, the other point of evidence is the increase in the employee net promoter
Yeah.
score, right?
Yeah.
People are happier working there. And it makes me think, is there a work equivalent of happy wife, happy life? You're familiar with that, right? And I've got a wonderful wife, and, she would probably turn it around on me, and, whatever the happy husband, happy life thing
Sure.
is. But what's the work version of that? Is there one?
Yeah.
Like happy staff, happy,
Customers.
say it again?
Happy staff, happy customers.
There we go.
In our case, members.
Mm,
And Richard Branson, I have to credit him with that. He posts that everywhere, but
okay.
it's true. We spend a lot of money on training, on making people happy, on helping them achieve their dreams, even if it means that they're outside of here. That's one benefit about working in a club, is that you have such a wide network that if there's someone like who is going to school or pursuing a career that might be outside of here, how can we help them get there?
Ah,
And we do that all the time.
what
All
does
the
that
time.
look like?
So I had a particular girl who was working for me in member billing. So smart. So smart. And she's like, "Well, I'm thinking about going back to school." And I'm like, "Well, what is it that you want to do?" And she's, "Well, I'm thinking about risk management." I'm like, "Oh, I have to introduce you to our broker, Johnson Kendall Johnson. They're an amazing company. I think you would love working there. That'll get you to where you want to go." And she's like, "Really?" I introduced her. She's working there now, and she's doing great. Um, Seeing people succeed, even if it means that they're outside of here,
Mm.
is just such a great feeling for us. We're absolutely going to do it because we want to help you achieve your dreams, because then you're going to say, "Oh my gosh, my experience at PCC was so great. Here's what they did for me."
I was fortunate enough to have somebody kind of infuse that lesson into me, I don't know, 20, 25 years ago. As I've owned different companies over the years and I invest in my team, I'm always worried about my team getting poached or leaving, or, I put a lot of time and energy into training them and, cultivating them and, sending them to courses and education. And somebody sort of flipped the script for me and they're like, no, that's the time to celebrate. Like they've graduated. Like you
Right.
have helped them into the next phase of their life. And, it shifted me from sort of this, I don't know if you want to call it a fixed mindset into more of a growth mindset,
Yeah.
and like be happy for that person, celebrate for that person that this new opportunity, this new door has opened for them.
Right.
And that was for me was a big energy shift, and being able to, and today I'm still in touch with folks that worked for me, 20 years ago. And it's like,
Sure.
oh, hey, what's going on? And sometimes they reach out for a reference or, some career advice. And it's just a much better feeling that way. That's what I'm hearing you say too.
Absolutely. Completely agree. There's nothing more rewarding for me than to see someone else reach their goals.
Mhm.
Because I can't always provide for them, right? I might not have a position that allows them to grow into it. So if I can help them get to one, that's just fantastic for me.
You've been in the hospitality and sports space for decades now. Are there particular shifts or innovations that you've noticed that, I don't know, have kind of surprised you over time?
I don't know if there's really anything that surprises me. Technology is interesting for me. Um, especially country clubs. They don't like to spend money on technology. They'd rather spend money on the golf course, and I totally get that. But in today's world, it's almost expected that you would have great technology like their companies have. Our members have, they're using Oracle or NetSuite or all of these really expensive types of software, and we don't have that here because we spend more money on the golf course than we do on technology. So the club is always behind from a technology standpoint. So trying to find innovation in a price point that eh, adds value to our members is something that I'm constantly looking at. That's probably the biggest area where I constantly get surprised of, you know, well, why can't you just do this? I understand it seems simple, but our system doesn't work that way. And trying to provide that service of, we call it reducing friction. Um, where is there friction and how can we make that easier, whether it's for the employee, for each other, for the members, whatever it may be. So constantly trying to stay up, and AI is really interesting for me. So I'm trying to just learn as much as I can right now to see how that might eventually apply to us. Um, so I think that's going to probably be a big shift. One thing that we are doing, not necessarily from an AI standpoint, but I mean, kind of. Our ground superintendent, Dan Mearsman, I mentioned him before. We're one of the first clubs to bring in autonomous mowers.
Wow.
Yeah. Um, and we constantly each year we're increasing our fleet a little bit more. And it doesn't necessarily decrease our staff, but what it does is it allows them to shift to things that are more detail oriented. Like cutting around some of the sand traps that require much more detail and a human touch to do. The autonomous mowers will take care of the big spaces that, you don't have to have.
The
And they're quiet,
fairways.
they're interesting.
But the humans are still doing the greens and
Yeah,
the rough and
all
okay.
of the detail kind of work that a machine can do.
Mhm.
Um, so it's interesting to see how to start incorporating some of those things. There's some innovation like that coming out in kitchens. We don't have any of it yet, but we're keeping an eye on, kind of what's available and what we can use. There's no doubt that the labor market is tough, especially after COVID. A lot of people left the hospitality industry. And so we have to think of ways that other than just pay, um, to attract good talent. Um, so yeah, that's probably going to be the biggest shift in our industry in the next several years.
You said that AI is really interesting to you at this
Mhm.
point. Are you finding ways to leverage it in your work yet?
Not yet. We installed a new phone system um that was supposed to have an AI agent. It didn't work the way I wanted it to, and it really frustrated our members, so I turned it off. Um I'm hoping that technology will get a little bit better. Um and I'm still learning how it can apply to what we do. Um so I'm just not quite sure yet. I'm still learning in that area.
Fair enough. What does the future of the Philadelphia Cricket Club look like? What are you excited about that's on the horizon? New projects, new member drives, new sports? I don't know.
Yeah, so we are in the process of building a golf performance center and updating our range, which is super exciting. We're also going to be renovating our clubhouse at the Wissahickon Golf Course, which is like an old farmhouse. Um, it's incredibly inefficient, and I think after this renovation, the flow will be much better. So I'm really excited about that. I think that's really going to drive the membership. We have a strong demand for golf membership. Um, and, I think that's only going to enhance the experience by adding those things.
Now, let's shift gears for a moment, Linda. I'd like to dive into a big challenge that you've overcome in your life, whether it's on the personal side of things, professional side. How'd you get through that? What did you learn in the process?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest challenges I had was prior to taking the job here. Um, I was going through some personal things, a divorce, namely, um, and was in a job where I missed posting a payroll. I've never made a mistake like that before. And normally, I don't allow my personal life to interfere with my professional life. Um, so that was hard. It was really hard. Um, and they ended up letting me go, um, which I didn't feel was fair because my audit was perfect. And I caught it before then. I mean, I caught it within a month of not doing it. Um, but at the same time, I learned something didn't look right, and I knew it didn't look right. And I need to trust my gut more when I notice something that is off because I'm so detail oriented. Like I don't miss stuff like that. And so trusting my gut more, I'm like, no, dig back into that. That doesn't look right. Even with my team now, I'm like, that doesn't look right. Let's dig back in. And most times they will find something that, oh, yep, this isn't an offer. This is, that sort of thing. Um, so just that was really hard for me.
Yeah,
Um,
I can imagine. I mean, you're going through a brutally rough, personal experience,
yeah,
already figuring out how to get up from that and dust yourself off. And now, the one part of your life where maybe you were finding some solace, like where you felt like you were still in control, you still kind of had your hands on the reins
yeah,
because of this tornado going on over here, you missed something. And
right.
so now you're really beating yourself up on top of already feeling bad.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so it was rough. But I made it through. Um, I became better for it. I certainly didn't make that mistake again. I don't think I've ever made the same mistake twice, but I definitely didn't make that one again. And I ended up in a really good place, and I've been here longer than I've ever been anywhere, which is 13 years, and it's been really successful for me.
When you were going through kind of the worst of that, right? The divorce, kind of missing that thing at work and then, being let go ultimately, where did you go for support? Who was there for you?
Um, Actually, God. Um, I I realized I was out of control, and I was trying to control everything. And I said, what am I doing? Um, I'm like, you know what? God, take this for me. And it's like the light went off. And then all of a sudden, everything started to like just fall into place the way it was supposed to. And when you step back and look at how all of that happened, I know 100% that was God guiding me. 100%. Um, and I've learned to, well, first of all, I start my day with God every day without fail. No matter what I do, first thing I do is the daily readings. I'm Catholic, so I get them emailed every morning. It's really easy. um, and it helps me recognize those God moments, and they happen all the time, all the time. And they certainly happened in my life. Um, the timing of getting the job here, my now husband got a job with a member the same day. I mean, everything just like fell into place. And I'm like, okay, this is where we're supposed to go. Um, so yeah, that's really what got me through it.
If I'm hearing you, it sounds like you almost needed to hit sort of this bottom point of frustration, and like you use the words out of control, and you're
Yep.
trying to control all of these things that you couldn't, and finally you let go.
Yes.
You let go. You gave it to a higher power. I can't do this.
Yes.
And that's when things started to click for you. Is
Yeah.
that what I'm hearing? Yeah.
That's exactly what you're hearing. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's really beautiful if you look back at it.
Hmm. And I think this is so hard for people to do, especially when you're going through the hard thing in the moment, right? So it's like, even if you have some perspective and awareness, it's like, okay, and you can step back and ask yourself the question, what am I meant to learn from this? Right.
Right.
Because that's what I do when I'm going through something hard. It's like, okay, where's the lesson in this? How
Yeah.
can I come out of this struggle as a better person? It's really hard to have that perspective in the moment. But so many times as I look in the rearview mirror, what I went through, it's like, man, in a weird way, I've got a sense of gratitude for that
Yeah.
because I've got a new perspective. It steered me in a different direction. It caused me to meet this person. Something happened that really changed the trajectory of my life in a positive way.
Yeah. Absolutely. Um, and I think having that kind of rock bottom, if I will call it that, moment changed my perspective going forward. So now when I see challenges, it's a little bit easier for me to step back and say, okay, let's think about this for a minute. Is there an opportunity here where I have a tendency to, my husband gets upset with me a little bit because sometimes I'm too positive. Like I can always see a good in something, whether it be a person or a situation or whatever. And I think that moment where I decided to just turn things over gave me that freedom to say, okay, well, let's look at this for a minute. I'm sure there's some good we can get out of this. And there always is if you look at it from that perspective, but you have to train yourself to do that, and you have to say, yeah, there's a higher power at work, and I know we can find an opportunity in this. So it's,
That's
yeah.
beautiful. I appreciate you sharing all that. And, another question I really like to ask is sort of the daily routines, the habits. Like, and you said one of them, you're Catholic, you do
Yep.
the readings every day to start your day. Are there anything else that's sort of in your routine that kind of helps keep you on track, keep you centered?
I think that's the biggest one because it really starts my day centered with God, but then also starting it with gratitude.
Mhm.
So I'm it starts me looking at things in a positive way. Other things are, just other personal things are, exercise, healthy eating, just trying to take good care of myself, so that I can be of service to others.
I love that. Linda, what would you characterize as your superpower?
I think understanding. I seek to understand before being understood. And what I mean by that is, if I need something accomplished and I'm presenting this idea to whomever maybe it may be, I want to know how that's going to affect them from an operational standpoint. How much, you know, are you able to execute it at the highest level that you can? And if not, why? So I want to understand before just being understood, if that makes sense. I don't like to just bark orders out to people without understanding how it impacts them from an operational standpoint, because I always want my team to be able to operate at the highest level that they can. And if I'm asking them to do something that won't let them do that, I want to know why. Because it might change my perspective.
How do you personally approach personal development on a day-to-day or annual basis? Like, do you sort of start out like New Year's thinking, okay, I want to learn about AI, or I want to, whatever it is, or is this sort of more of a day-to-day approach? How do you think about it?
It's a little of both. I'm the type of person who does not like to be stagnant. I cannot do the same thing day in and day out, which is probably why I enjoy my job so much, because it's not the same every day. Um, but when I feel like I have education dollars that I'm allowed to use, and I have a certification, so I need some, industry education to keep that certification because I need those education hours. But like last year, I was like, you know what? I need a different challenge. So instead of going to conference, I decided to take a class from Morton Business School, called Women on Boards. It was a week-long class, 40-ish women from all over the world, different industries. It was so energizing, and learning from them probably even more so than the class, not to knock Wharton classes because it was great. But just hearing the challenges of other women, hearing their experiences in their industry or in their countries, was just amazing. And it was so energizing. And I just love stuff like that. I love putting myself in situations that make me uncomfortable, because the growth happens when you're uncomfortable. It doesn't happen when you're comfortable. Um, and so I'm a constant learner. Um, I learn about nutrition, about health, about exercise. My husband's a CrossFit athlete, so I'm constantly looking at, recovery because we're older. So I'm looking at recovery. I'm looking at nutrition. I'm going down this rabbit hole of learning about peptides. I mean, I'm like all over the place when it comes to things that I'm interested in and that keep me engaged. But I will always be a lifelong learner. And so I like constantly challenging myself that way.
Yeah. And you hit on something that I'm a big proponent of as well, and that's the support of peer groups, right?
Yeah.
Especially when you're kind of at the top, like it
Yeah.
can feel a little bit alone, a little bit isolating.
Mhm.
And so when you have the opportunity, in that course, a mastermind, a seminar, wherever it is, you can kind of get together with more of like your tribe, your kinds of people. You can share stories, you can support each other. I've been through that. Here's what I did. And then you're in the room with really big thinkers. And you're like, oh,
Yeah.
man, I thought I was a big thinker and I see what she's working on. And
Yeah.
I gotta up my game, right?
I love it. Yes, absolutely. I love being around people who are going to challenge me to be a better me,
No.
regardless of what area it's in. Yeah.
Any podcasts or books that are favorites of yours that might want to recommend to our listeners?
So the best management book I've ever read is called The Dream Manager by Matthew Kelly. Several of us on the team read it and we're like, that's it. That's what we're trying to create here. It's a story about helping employees reach their dreams. And I guess it's been 2 weeks now. I got a picture from my chef of an employee with keys to her house. And he said, you helped this happen. And we played a very minor role. Don't get me wrong. She worked hard to get it, but to see that dream fulfilled and to get that text message, I was almost in tears. I mean, that's what we're here for. That's the kind of thing that really makes me feel like we're on the right direction. And that book kind of describes that. It's like if we were going to write a book of what we're trying to create, that's it.
I
But
love
yeah,
that.
so that's probably the best one I've read.
Linda, I've just got one more question for you today, but before I ask it, I want to do a few housekeeping items here. Anybody who wants to get in touch with Linda Cozzi, you can find her on LinkedIn. We'll have a link to that in the show notes, but her last name is spelled Cozzi, Linda Cozzi. You can find her on LinkedIn. And as a reminder, if you want to get more employees access to benefits that won't hurt them financially and carries a financial upside for the company, reach out to us at addbackbenefits.com. Finally, if you would take just a moment to leave us a comment or review on your favorite podcast app, you'll hold a special place in our hearts forever. Now, Linda, last question for you. You and I reconnect a year from today, and you are celebrating something big, fist pumping in the air, kind of celebrating. What's that big thing you hope to be celebrating 1 year from now?
I hope that our net promoter score for our employees is even higher than where it is now. I would love to see it around 75 to 80 is where I'd love to
Wow.
get it. I know. High dreams, but I would love to be celebrating that a year from now.
Linda Cozzi from the Philadelphia Cricket Club, I want to be the first to thank you for sharing both your time and your story with us today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Folks, that's a wrap on another episode of the Inspired Stories podcast. Thanks for learning with us today.